Right, it's time to take a look at stories making headlines in Nigerian newspapers. And joining me now on Skype, we have public affairs analyst Smart APDOYE joining me right now, and journalist and media consultant IFEKAYODE AKINBODE. Gentlemen, it's nice to have you both on with me this morning on the program. All right, let's start right away with Blueprint newspaper. COVID-19 palliatives for print media underway. All right, that's what Blueprint newspaper has. Federal government gives reprieve to TV radio stations over 7.8 billion naira debt. Okay, that's on the Blueprint newspaper. From there, let's go to News Direct. And it is a fallout of COVID-19. Fresh lockdown imminent as Nigeria's cases rank second worst affected in Africa. Okay, I guess my guests will like to talk about this when we get to the discussion window. From there, let's go to Daily Times. Daily Times says reps move to block $30 billion yearly revenue leakages. Reps move to block $30 billion yearly revenue leakages. That's on the Daily Times. National economy is next now. National economy says experts project upward trajectory as federal government set to inject 2.3 trillion naira into economy. And reps move to block $30 billion annual revenue leakage. All right. Okay. Days ahead. That's the national economy. From there, let's go to the Leadership newspaper. Leadership says COVID-19, Nigeria, 72 others risk stockout of HIV drugs. And the pandemic hampering access to antiretroviral drugs, as the WHO is saying that. And says 2020 global health targets won't be met. COVID-19 airborne, scientists insist. Growing cases among VIPs unsettles federal government and warns against mistakes of 1918 pandemic. Lagos, Abuja, Kano airports begin operations tomorrow. And AKINBODE tests negative now. That's the governor of Ondo State. Okay, from the Leadership newspaper, let's go to Daily Trust now. Daily Trust newspaper says Salami's panel quizzes Magu may recommend sack. And how DSS picked EFCC chair. He was invited, not arrested. The presidency is saying this. Malami keeps mum. And AGF's memo, part of Villa Power Play Anti-Corruption Committee, is saying this. Okay. That is what you see on Daily Trust. Okay. All right, let me come to IFEKAYODE now on the program. IFEKAYODE, good morning. It's good to have you join me. The story on the front page of News Direct would interest you, and he's saying the fresh lockdown imminent as Nigerian cases rank second worst affected in Africa. That's of COVID-19. I wonder how troubled you are with this development. Now, the health experts had said initially that the partial reopening of the economy and everything is too soon. Now, there could be the likelihood that has been tinkered here and there, although there hasn't been any official word in that regard. What are your concerns?
Well, thank you. Good morning. I'm actually really worried because we're in a very precarious situation. And I'm afraid that Nigeria's economy might totally collapse if we go on another round of lockdown. I think that what we should do as a nation is to continue to educate our people on the need to take responsibility. We're in a very serious situation, and I can assure you that any responsible government will not tinker with an idea of total lockdown again. How do you get people to do it? Because even the few moments we locked down, things were in terrible situation. Crime rate increased, people could no longer feed, and it is the terrible situation that we find ourselves. We should continue to educate and tell citizens to take responsibility. I do not think that the government will do a total lockdown. The pandemic has come to stay with us. We are going to live with it. It doesn't appear to me that it's going to go anytime soon. So either we lock down, we do not lock down. The virus might not go anytime soon. So continue to educate people till things get better, and then we should take responsibility. That's what we should do.
Okay, Smart, let me bring you up in here. At this point where a lot of information goes out on daily basis, but one would say we still have people who don't believe that there's COVID-19 anywhere or anything called COVID-19. But what more can Nigeria do? What more can health authorities do at this point? Smart.
In the first place, good morning. First, that Nigerians still does not believe, or most Nigerians does not believe. It is not because that they don't really believe that there is COVID-19, but they don't believe the government. You see, this is a problem that the citizens have a disconnect with the government. And oftentimes I have said this, that the problem is that we have not gone back to the basis. We must go back to the basis. What is the basis? Go back to the grassroots. I don't know what it cost this government. Let us go back to the grassroots. The grassroots is, let us use the traditional means of disseminating informations. Let us begin to look at the ballets. Let us begin to look at the KBAC. Mike, sometime in Ikorodu, sometime in Igbogbo, the KBAC, because he wanted to control the spread, because he felt that people are breaking the law, he said that no market, no shops must open in Igbogbo, within Igbogbo environment. That is Igbogbo Bayeku. What they did was that we had town criers that went around to announce the information, to pass the information of KBAC, that KBAC have said by so date, do not open your shop. That if you open your shop, well, so sorry for the consequence. Throughout, I drove around, no shops was opened. Look, the same vein, if the government says don't come out, that disregard Oro, and the KBAC have said, look, Oro festival continues, nobody will go out. So if the people believe more in their traditional rulers, why are we not using them to pass information? That is my problem. It is not because we don't believe it. It is not because most Nigerians does not believe it, but it is because we don't believe the government. The government have failed the people. And because the government has failed the people, any information coming from the government, they see it as false. They see it as a means of strangulating the poor ones. They see it as a means of stealing. So they don't even want to believe anything government. I don't know. So let us go back to the basis. Equally, let us begin to use tradition. Let us begin to use our religious leaders. You will see, just like at home, so many wives, they will believe their pastor more than they will believe their husband. So let us also use this method to also pass this information. Look, tell all these pastors, the moment they are online, let them first of all pass these messages. Because of that, I'm not advocating that churches should open. So okay. just to quickly share that. What we must say, is that as they go online, let them pass on these messages.
All
that,
right.
Look, keep safe, do this, do that, and you see that we will obey. It is not because it is not because of anything. They don't believe the center where it's coming from, the government.
All right. All right, Smart. Okay, Smart. We get your narrative now. IFEKAYODE, let me hinge on that area. Now, if government is coming to say people shouldn't do this or people should do this going forward, now that is even on the mass scale. Those who are even in government who understand from whom the information is coming. You could recall that at the burial ceremony, or the brief burial ceremony of some of the government officials who died from COVID-19, we saw the convergence of people who are even very knowledgeable, members of cabinet, people who are in government from whom this information is going out. How do we reconcile all of this?
Well, you just said it yourself. The trial of the Nigerian nation is that we are extremely indisciplined from head down. You see, the irony of it is that if you are going to get people to believe you or to obey in your instruction, you must show leadership by example. When you see a top government official die, and you say that by NCDC regulation, the maximum you can get at every gathering is 20, which would include social distancing. But because the person that died is a VVIP, you see hundreds of people there loitering. Then you expect the other person to die, and you expect them not to do Owambe. Mike, it is absolutely impossible because we have not demonstrated as leaders examples. So if you don't get to do this thing and show some level of seriousness, nobody would believe you. Not just my brother just said, nobody will believe you. Look, as of yesterday, I was talking with some young men, and they are telling me plainly that, look, bros, there is no coronavirus in Nigeria. There is a way for government to steal money. I had to call somebody who is in an isolation center taking medications and put the person on speaker, who is also a journalist from Ogun State. And then they said that they want to see the video. That all over the world, they see the videos of victims and they see them where they are treated. Or in Nigeria, what they see is that people are eating chicken and rice in the isolation center. How then do you want me to believe them? So there is something wrong with our information dissemination. There is something wrong with the way we pass the information to the people. And then when you open the papers, so person is accused, so person of stealing so amount of money. And then everything in Nigeria is politicized. People talk about money, money, money at the expense of the well-being of the common man on the street of Nigeria. I'm afraid, Mike, I pray, and I'm not a pessimist, I pray that this pandemic may not cause serious trouble for Nigeria.
Joining me via Skype is public affairs commentator Smart APDOYE and journalist and media consultant IFEKAYODE AKINBODE. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. All right, we head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the blueprint. COVID-19 palliatives for print media on the way as federal government gives reprieve to TV radio stations over 7.8 billion naira debt. All right, we move now to the front page of the News Direct. COVID-19, fresh lockdown imminent as Nigeria cases rank second worst affected in Africa. On the front page of the Daily Times now, reps move to block 30 billion naira yearly revenue leakages. And to the front page of the Leadership newspaper, COVID-19, Nigeria 72 authors risk stockout of HIV drugs. Pandemic hampering access to antiretroviral. WHO says 2020 global health targets won't be met. COVID-19 airborne, scientists insist. Growing cases among VIPs unsettles federal government. Let's quickly move on now to the front page of the national economy. Expert projects upward trajectory as federal government set to inject 2.3 trillion naira into economy. Reps move to block $30 billion annual revenue leakage. And finally, on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, Salami's panel quizzes Magu may recommend sack. How DSS picked EFCC chair. He was invited, not arrested. Presidency. Malami keeps mum. AGF memo part of Villa Power Play Anti-Corruption Committee. I'm certain this might interest our guests this morning. I'd like for us to quickly look at this story, talking about the developing story which has to do with Ibrahim Magu. I wonder, gentlemen, I'll begin with you, Smart, what you make of recent developments with Ibrahim Magu. You would recall that over the years, as acting chairman, he has been seemingly fighting for his position, so to speak.
In the first place, I am not too happy with the way our public officers are being disgraced out of office. Now, you will see the same thing happened to the first chairman. That is, I've forgotten it. Oh, his name skipped me. The first chairman of EFCC. You could see what they did to him, and it was very, very wrong. You see, you cannot keep disgracing our public officers out of. Either you say he was invited. First, they said he was invited. Up till now, he is still with them. He's still with them in State House. I'm not sure he has an apartment there that they are keeping him. Secondly, you see, I think Magu also should perhaps have seen the handwriting on the wall. In the first place, I think there were so many bridges because several times the Minister for Justice complained of bridge in his discharge of duty. Whether you like it or not, the Constitution have made the Minister for Justice, have made you answerable to the Minister for Justice, and I think you should follow that protocol. But however, I am particularly disturbed with the happening yesterday. Either he was invited or he was arrested. He invited somebody It's not stopping the person in the traffic or stopping the person on his way and say, you must follow me. The moment you say you must follow me, that is an arrest. If you have to invite just a call from the minister or a call from any member of the panel that you are wanted, please, your attention is needed, would have been good enough. Going further also, Femi Odekule's statement issued by him, which is yet to be verified by me. Honestly, I think also, and if he's also a member of that panel, I think there is something wrong. Femi Odekule shouldn't have withdrawn, because as he has shown clearly that is inside of Magu and is against Malami, that is not a very good one. So we should be, as a public officer, or the moment you are representing the government, you should be careful of your utterances. That is my take on that this morning.
All right, let's get to IFEKAYODE's perspective to this developing story now. What concerns do you have with recent developments with regards to Ibrahim Magu?
Well, I think that our government is not serious at all. From the days of Nuhu Ribadu to the days of Farida Waziri to Ibrahim Lamode, they have treated the leaders of these anti-corruption agencies with disdain. Whatever issues they have with them, there should be laid down protocols for disengaging them, not for publicly ridiculing
But it hasn't been established that he is being disengaged.
Look, we have seen that the DSS, which is under the presidency, some moments ago, wrote a damning report against Magu. And that there have been altercations between Magu, the DSS, and even the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. Just like my brother said, Magu's anti-graft agency, either he likes it or not, is under the supervision of the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation. So if your supposed boss is not comfortable with what you're doing, it is time for him to take a bow. In the history of Nigeria, Magu remains the only chairman that has acted in that capacity for as long as I can remember. Lamade was confirmed, Nuhu Ribadu was confirmed, Farida Waziri was confirmed. But till today, Ibrahim Magu is an acting chairman of the Anti-Corruption Agency. So for him to know, it is time for him to go back to the police force as the Deputy Commissioner of Police and continue his career path.
So is this why some persons are saying that the president should take responsibility, seeing that Ibrahim Magu has been in acting capacity despite the fact that there wasn't a change in the leadership of the National Assembly?
Well, that is the responsibility of the president and the National Assembly. Twice he has recommended him to the National Assembly. Twice he has been rejected by the National Assembly. And they have asked Mr. President to forward another name based on the recommendation and the damning report by the Department of State Security Service under the presidency. So now there's a new leadership in the National Assembly, and I'm not sure that the president has recommended Ibrahim Magu. But for me, we have about 220 million people, and I do not think that Ibrahim Magu is the only Nigerian who has capacity to fight corruption in Nigeria. The president should get somebody else who has capacity to fight corruption, and we should just get done with all this mess and face the serious issue of leadership and governance in the country.
All right, Smart, some have said that perhaps the arrest, or rather, he's being called for questioning at the presidency, might be an indication of a change in the president's fight against corruption. Is that what this means for you as well?
Well, in the first place, let me say it, and let me say it clearly. I am against the comment of police officers to EFCC. Let the EFCC do its job. Let the police do their job. It is wrong in the first place to have sent a police officer and quickly point of correction. He is the commissioner for police. Within 6 years, he has been promoted twice. I think it is time for Magu to turn back to the police. Equally, it is time again that let us begin to have somebody in a retired person. Let us begin to have a retired person or even a criminologist or somebody or a forensic audit specialist to head EFCC. It is not compulsory that it must be a military officer or a paramilitary officer. No, we must not have anybody going back to EFCC must not be a serving either military or paramilitary officer. Let EFCC begin. Let the federal government begin to disengage. One best thing that happened to EFCC happened during Farida Waziri. Fadila Waziri was gradually beginning to disengage the police officers in EFCC, and he was recruiting more men from the EFCC, and he was even making them the sector heads, the unit heads. But right now, you brought police officers to head them. To see there will be disconnect. Let us begin to disconnect. Let us begin to disengage. Let the EFCC stand on its own. The same thing happened when they created the NSO. The NSO were officers from the Nigerian police. Gradually, NSO stand on its own. Today it became SSS. And the SSS, they are doing well. Equally, we must not discountenance the report of the SSS. Have we investigated this report? Is this the report we are investigating? If it is true, then Magu should be made to face the music. They couldn't have had all this report against you, and yet you think, look, you will go scot-free. But equally, let us begin to face a situation whereby we have career officers taking over EFCC. Let us begin to train operatives that are independent of the Nigerian police.
All right, IFEKAYODE, your final thoughts on this issue now.
Well, to me, I want to beg Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari to please realize that this country is going through a very troubling situation, and that he should take leadership very seriously. One, if the panel indicts Magu, they should disengage Magu and get somebody else, and then let's face this issue of pandemic ravaging the country headlong, so that we don't get into a serious trouble in this country. That's my take.
All right, Smart, what would you expect the president to do after the panel has finished the meeting?
Of course, the president should take an immediate and decisive action. If the panel has submitted their report and they find Magu free, in the first place, let him send a Magu letter of commendation and let Magu go. This is the time for Magu to go. Magu should go, and let us bring somebody that is not a serving officer to head EFCC. EFCC has groomed officers enough from Course 1. Let us pick somebody from Course 1 to head EFCC, for goodness sake. Why must it be from the police? Good morning.
All right, Smart, APDOYE, IFEKAYODE, thank you so much, gentlemen, for